Hello and welcome back to the ARK of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gav I.
And we're the Blanchard brothers. But for this episode, we're also the Disgusting Brothers. We haven't done like a show-specific episode in quite a while where we focused on one TV series. It's kind of a crazy year for television, but there's a few shows ending, and one big one that you finally caught up with. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Normally, you know, we throw a lot of stuff around when we're talking. It's like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Oh yeah, I'm really excited. Mm-hmm. But turn around and a week later, spoilers in advance for up to this point of Succession. All 4 seasons, 7 episodes, is that 8 episodes into season 4. Spoilers for everything. I don't know why you're listening if you don't want to hear them. Okay, here we go. I get a text. This show killed Logan Roy on a plane.
Dead on a toilet.
I don't know what you said.
Fishing his iPhone out of a clogged toilet.
He was a man who didn't want to wear his compression socks because he wanted to look sexy for what's her name?
I can't even think of the girl's name now. That's so crazy.
That's terrible. How much she was just, excised. Okay, before we get into all of that, okay, so you binged
3
all of Succession.
Well, up till that point where he the episode. So before
episode 3.
Well, because you had said in the when we last recorded, you're like, dude, episode 3, chef's just like fucking perfect. Like the show, just like I'm like, all right. So I'm watching, and I'm hate watching. I'm like, this fucking show, like what the fuck? Get it, you know? And then like I get to I'm in it, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the last season. And I don't realize that it's the 3rd episode coming up because they just, Netflix, HBO, soon to be Max. Max just like keeps them going, and I just skip the intro. And next thing I know, I'm like,
you skipped the intro?
Well,
you skipped that score?
After the first, I watched the every new season. I'll watch the because it changes and whatnot. I'll watch it one time, and I'm like, okay, I'm good, because the score is just like. Are they trying to be dramatic? Like, is it making, what are we doing here? Like,
okay,
it's so crazy.
We got to get into all of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 3rd one rolls around, and I'm just like, okay. And the next thing you know, old Tom's just like, hey, Shiv, it's your dad. And I'm like, the fuck? They're fucking with you. This isn't happening. This isn't real. This is some, dream world. This is a play. This is a play for him to, not be around, and he's gone.
Pause. Okay. So, granted, it's all fresh in your head because you just blew right through it. I was late to the party, and I got
obviously not as late as me.
Right. I got a shout out though, Mr. Tim Niles. Thank you, brother. He was in from day 1 on season 1. I was like, what is this? What is this show?
Exactly like what I was thinking.
I think Thrones was running around the same time. I forget what else was in the HBO ether. But I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. And then, I heard the varying reactions of like, oh, what is this? Like, is this sustainable? Blah, blah, blah. And basically, and then I hear the tides kind of turn, and people by the end of the 1st season are like, this shit's really good. And then Tim ultimately was like, dude, it was right around the time season 2 was rolling. He's like, dude, trust me, you got to catch up. And I was like, but isn't it just a bunch of finance, shit, and this was their answer to Billions, right?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, kind of, but it's way better than Billions. And I was like, okay.
It's like Shakespeare.
I was like, okay. And I gave it a shot, and I went through those exact same, same emotions where first 3 to 4 episodes, I was like, what the fuck? People like this? Yeah. This is the most lauded show of the year.
Yeah.
What the hell? And sure enough, by the time, I would say around up to 4 or 5, I was just like, oh, I get it now. Mm-hmm. And it just proceeds to for me personally, seasons 2 and 3 and now 4 are operate on the highest echelon of dramatic television. It's so good. So yeah, I was late to the party, but I basically binged through 1 and then watched 2 as it happened, and I've been, hooked and singing its praises ever since. So you would watch 1 kind of out of context or bits and pieces.
Now when I'm after
the finale.
how about going back through it, I realized like the episode that I was like aware of was the finale of 1. And I guess that was it, because there was no, either it was it or like 2 had already come out, because maybe I think Bex might have been like moved to the next episode. And I saw and I was like, okay, that guy looks familiar. Oh shit, Brian Cox. Okay. And then like, have you seen The Gentleman yet?
I still haven't watched it.
So Kendall is in The Gentleman. He's
Right.
the guy that's wanting to buy out McConaughey's drug operation. So I watched that movie and I'm like, this is Guy Ritchie's like ode to The Long Good Friday. Let's see how this plays. And, I was like, okay. And that was like, all right, I kind of like that dude as like a villain. Is he like a villain of this show? What's going on? And like slowly as you get into it, you realize these fucking people are vile and like awful. They're like the worst human beings, but like they aren't. Like they haven't killed anybody.
Except for Kendall.
Kendall, yeah. Up until that point. But then it's like, I'm questioning what's even more vile when he finally tells his family.
Wait a sec. I think that, it was an unmanned satellite.
Right.
There's a whole satellite that Roman blows up
Right.
in the first season.
The launch,
But I think that was unmanned. I don't think anybody actually...
Nobody
I don't
was
think anybody died.
A couple people like got glass and some fingers maybe missing, but that's it. Like nothing big.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I do vaguely remember that.
Right. But they're like the most vile people on earth. And
they suck.
They're terrible. And like, Bex and I have this joke that like, you should just nickname the show Cringe. Like just Cringe.
Yeah.
That's it. Because it is so fucking cringe.
It is one of the... I mean, they do cringe. I think the only thing that even comes close to it is the UK Office.
Like, if
those
we're
are the two. And again, this comes from a strongly UK sensibility from Jesse Armstrong.
If we're going to go to the Gene Cousineau School of Acting, if you want to do cringe and learn cringe, just watch all this show and you'll know how to do that as an actor. And it's really hard because like, I want to believe that Kieran Culkin is a sweet dude, but like he's the fucking worst of all of them. I've found like...
Well, and you're coming off of the most recent episode, which I think... okay, so I want to talk broadly before we get into 4, because I think 4 is like, in a lot of ways, kind of doing the Barry thing that Barry started doing in season 3, where it's kind of like, okay, we know there's some people that watch this show, quote unquote, not to be judgy, but we'll say broadly for the wrong reasons, or maybe don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to like slowly but surely like just remind people what the fuck they're watching, kind of thing. And I feel like as much fun as we have with like, oh dude, everybody's so sharp tongued and they always have like the best fucking thing to say to somebody, and like everything is so so nihilistic and just like fuck the world, whatever. And just when you step back from any of these encounters, it's like none of this shit matters. Like none of this shit matters. These people could like the company could blow up tomorrow. They're all millionaires.
I want to speak to that because it is done so subtly and so perfectly. I don't think anybody, well, maybe people who are fans of it and get it can understand where I'm coming from, but this is one of my favorite things. I think early on in season 1, there's a scene, I think Kendall's trying to like talk to other people about like overthrowing his dad on the board seat or whatever.
Right.
And they go to a concert and the rap artist comes in and they are enamored by him and he could not give 2 shits about these people. Mm-hmm. And they have to be like, will you go fucking remind him who pays the check, who owns the record label, so he'll come back? And I'm like, that's it. That's all you're ever going to be. No one fucking knows you. As his own father says, you're a fucking nobody. Like, that's Kendall in a nutshell. I've stated from day one. He's a fucking nobody.
Yeah.
Who plays like he's someone who thinks, and it's like, these people are suffering you because you're rich. And that's it.
That is literally it.
And every time you think he's going to realize that, he fucking doesn't. You know?
But he thinks he has the like, oh, I'm just going to have a bunch of sycophants around me, just like Logan does. It's like, you haven't like earned that. It's like as gross as that whole dynamic is. Mm-hmm. This guy who's made like all of these staffers, like Jerry, Frank, Carl, etc. like suffer under him for years and shit, and like dangle carrots in front of them, etc. It's like Kendall thinks like, oh, I can do that. I can be my dad. It's like, dude, nobody respects you.
Right.
Like,
Same thing
all.
and like that's the thing with Roman, and that's what I appreciate about him. Like with whatever disconnect he had with his dad, like he still at least tried to go for a little bit on that route of like, let me at least try to like get in on this with him and like have this be his thing. But there's so much like, it's one of those where like there's so like, it got to the point until they offed him. I was rooting for Logan. I was like, it's all about Logan. It's not about like we're trying to. It's about a guy trying to like make his nut, get his money, and keep his fucking money grubbing kids from like ruining it all for him. You know?
Yeah.
And he successfully has like baited them all against each other. But when they all combine to come against him, what happens? He fucking dies on a plane. When they all get their act together and decide, hey, we could all work better against Dad, he fucking dies on a plane.
Let's be honest, even as they quote unquote get their act together, they all have their own independent motives and are like secretly, conspiring behind the others' backs and stuff.
That's one of the
and it's just like they'll never be able to make it work together.
No.
And that's been very evident in 4. So okay. Season 1, like I said, I remember being one of those where I kind of like by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, this is very much a Mad Men season 1 situation, where it's like you kind of get flashes of like where this could go or the quote unquote greatness of it or whatever, but it really, you need the full scope of the first season to really kind of judge it. And that like Shiv and Tom's wedding, where I mean, dude, I almost, do you want to kind of go like character by character?
Yeah, we can.
And just how we've kind of, we're talking about Kendall, which is a great place to start, obviously, the number one boy.
No.
What?
It's Connor.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I love it. Yeah.
But yes, that is one of my favorite bits. I'm just like,
which is hilarious because
I'm the eldest.
Because
I'm the firstborn.
When I was talking to Bex about it, she's like, "Oh, Cameron," and I'm like, "No, Cameron is his name in Ferris Bueller." And she's like, "I just want to call him Cameron." And I'm like, "Okay." Yes. So now, like, if we're talking about it, and she drops the name, I don't correct her. I'm like, "No, his name is Connor." I'm just like, "Yeah, Cameron," because like we both have that like mental image to the point that I'm like, wouldn't it be so great if like we knew that like Cameron's like make him just change his name from Connor to Cameron Roy, and like it works. That could have been fucking
his absentee father.
Exactly, was Logan Roy. He was absent because he was off having children with this other woman.
Yeah,
it would totally work timeline wise in my head.
Okay,
but yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, let's talk. But yes, Alan Ruck, incredible. Like, great having him on the show for 4 seasons. And, yeah, a constant well of comedy. And it's played, like, pitch perfect, like, throughout.
And, like, weirdly, the most good-hearted of all of them, as, like, kind of bad as he can be, he's, if you want to pick one to root for, of the children.
Relatively, yeah. And at different points, I have rooted for each of the main 3 in different ways.
Of course.
But it is always in the same way where it's, there are other characters who we'll get to who it's like, oh, this is my dude, this is my person. And then inevitably all of these people at some point will reveal their true colors, and you're just like, oh yeah, I forgot who I'm watching. They all suck.
Yeah.
Literally, they're not good people.
I mean, it tells you
good people.
If you haven't watched this, again, spoilers. That first
I don't think anybody's
episode,
listening to this if they haven't watched it. And thank you to those who are listening.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, the first episode.
And girls. Everyone. Ladies.
Was it
gentlemen.
Thanksgiving?
What?
The first episode tells you everything you need to know. When fucking Roman tells that child, oh, if you hit a home run, I'll give you $1 million.
The baseball scene. I was going to say, yeah, let us never forget. And something I had to remind myself, because Roman, the first person I think I don't really remember ever getting like really emotionally hit in 1 or 2, but the first time I ever remember having like a legit, I'm misty eyed to Succession was the end of season 3, the final confrontation or whatever, the reveal that like, oh yeah, I talked to your mom and we reworked the contract and all of that, but when he's like, what about love, Dad? Essentially, and he's like, you know, you come at me with love.
Yeah. After you've sent me a dick
That's
pic.
but that Kieran Culkin delivery is the one. It was the first time I ever broke watching Succession. I was like, holy shit. And then it's like, I kind of had the sobering moment. I was like, dude, don't forget, this is the asshole who had the whole baseball set up in the pilot. I was like, how did you ever get sympathetic or feel for this guy? But I did, and that's the fucked up part of the show.
And right afterwards, you have the thing of Logan making the attempt to stop him and say, hey, it was a good effort. Like, not being like, that's probably the most loving thing he said to a child ever. He didn't say that to any of his own children.
Oh, definitely not.
But the Mexican family that helped set up the whole event, their son, he tells them, excellent form, you know, good try, you know. And then they give him the watch that Tom gave him. That's a lot of money. It's not $1 million, and it's like shitty regifting, but it also shows you exactly how he feels about Tom. And it's like, this guy cares more about his image and the people that like his kids are assholes to. He cares more about those people. Again, nefarious to a fault, because he doesn't want something like that story to come out. They could easily go sell that story to a tabloid rag and make a couple grand, you know. But again, he may already own that tabloid rag, because we get it. Yeah. He's basically
Rupert Murdoch.
Exactly. Yeah, he's Murdoch. That's it. That's what it is. Murdoch, not Murdahl. You know.
Yes.
So yeah. So even in those moments where you like, you fucking hate a character and another character does something that makes you think, okay, good on them for being that way, it's still tinged of like, but this fucking person is still fucking self-centered as shit, and they don't care.
Yeah.
It is only about money. And it's so, again, I was watching it first 2 seasons, I was like, fuck these kids, like they're terrible. You know, this show is all about this. So like at the end of it, when we get to the end of one, I'm like, yeah, daddy's in power. Like you can't fuck with the dude. Why? He's been there, dude. That dude is from Dundee, Scotland. Okay. By way and in Canada.
Him and James Cromwell.
Just, dude, James
just working it out.
James fucking Cromwell, dude. Fucking
kind of like
probably is the best person on the show. Morally,
probably gonna see him at the funeral. I would imagine,
hope so. Yeah.
Next episode. Hope to. That this has got to be the final like curtain call for anybody who they haven't brought back.
Yeah.
That they conceivably want to. Which I mean, they've brought back pretty much everybody that's been relevant in this final season. But yeah, I would like to see Cromwell. That would be a nice touch. Branching off of that, I already referenced him earlier, but Cousin Greg.
Fucking yeah.
For the first 2 seasons, I would say, was my guy. The guy I was secretly rooting for, because I was like, he's the outsider, a little bit of an interloper, but he has some key moves where I was like,
smart guy.
Maybe he's a smart guy. Maybe he's smarter than we're giving him credit for. But notably, like not shredding the documents.
All of them, at least.
Dealing with cruises, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that ends up not amounting to anything. But in the moment, you're like, all right, he's kind of sharp. And, of course, again, outside of Connor, it's like the most like non-cringy, I would say, because like the cringy laughs are mostly Kendall. Like, and you're just watching it. I mean, I don't know how much you know about, I'm going everywhere, I'm so sorry. I don't know how much you know about like Jeremy Strong and his whole, like, he's the one method guy on the cast apparently. And like Brian Cox notably has like kind of made fun of that in public and in interviews where he's kind of like, I understand why you have to go through all this like bullshit to play this guy, but that's his fucking process, and it's kind of hard to argue with the results, I would say.
Is he related to Mark Strong?
I don't think so.
It'd be cool if it was like a younger
No,
brother.
I think Jeremy Strong is American. If I'm not mistaken.
I thought he was British.
Pretty sure he's from New York.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost positive.
It's
hard to tell at this point, because for all I know, the after show stuff, he might be doing it in character. I don't know with this guy. But no, he is 100% straight up method. Like, yeah, and apparently that, of course, everybody has different acting styles, but that, sorry, we're going all over the place, but just the way they shoot this show, dude.
Mm-hmm. It almost feels like an Office or a Parks and Rec, because they'll cut in
the fly on the wall, like documentary, cinema verite vibe to it. But again, they're shooting on film, so like it looks incredible. But the thing that I would always kind of sell it on, and the thing that was hard to articulate to anybody who hadn't seen it, but I would always kind of be like, they shoot boardroom, like, conference scenes, like, you know, and they're written in such a way where you're like, this is as compelling as, like, an action scene in a summer blockbuster.
Right.
Like, it's that vibe, and I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just like, it's electric. It's like fly on the wall shit, and it's like, at a certain point, you're like, I don't actually think I would ever want to be anywhere near this sort of scenario. I'm sure there's a lot of people that watch it, and it is a certain amount of, like, wish fulfillment. Not for me personally. But that fly on the wall quality, I don't know, dude. And it's like, I think there's a certain amount of, like, theater, and I know a lot of them come from theater, the ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know just the way they shoot it in general, it's like you don't necessarily know when you're on camera, so you're always in it, essentially.
Right.
But I think it shows, and I think it's just like, it comes through in the quality of everything. And I think tying it all together is that score that I wanted to go back to that. You said that in the opening. You were like, am I supposed to take this as dramatic? So
I read it like a fucking Shakespearean comedy, or like, I guess tragedy.
Well, no, I think
tragedies are comedies, comedies are tragedies. I get it, but like, it feels so melodramatic. It feels so like, oh, what is here we see now, hence the fall of poor Logan Roy and his family of miscreants. It's like, who the fuck cares, dude? Like, this music
but it's also got the hip hop. It's got the Kindle influence.
Some of it,
like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think the score is incredible, and whenever it comes in the episodes, I'm always like, oh, gives me chills, dude. I love it. Sorry, Nicholas Bertel, incredible composer.
Yeah. You should give him a call, see if he wants to talk when the show's over.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's doing just fine, dude. Academy Award winner, if I'm not mistaken.
All the more reason to talk to him. Hello?
Yeah. Okay. I got lost in the sauce, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's
show looks great.
Yeah.
The writing's really good.
Yeah.
These are like shocking revelations that people need to hear.
Yeah.
That nobody's said in the last 5.5 years the show's been on. There was the COVID break, and I don't know. It started 2018, right?
Right.
Yeah, so 5 years.
It's just so, and like, going back to like what it is. You're right that it really doesn't matter. And I think one of the reasons I like what they've kind of ramped up to is like, you get the idea that like, yeah, all this other stuff you've seen, the family squabbling, the infighting and all that, you've seen the ramifications of like the way things have been done, a la the Cruise debacle, and like how like people are looking at it like it's a Fox News, like it's like an old dinosaur.
Right.
And like the struggle of like, we could be something great if you would just let me do this, Dad. And everyone can relate to at some point in time where they were promised something by someone that they loved in their own special way, and the promise was not fulfilled. And it's universal. So on the one hand, you do feel like, okay, Kendall, yeah, you were wrong, dude. You probably have the right way to go about this. But then you see how he does, and you're like, you're so fucking dumb. What are you doing? Like, yeah, you didn't get to be the head honcho. Fucking put your nose down, kill it with these deals, show your dad like, hey, I made you this. Your dad doesn't love you. Your dad loves money. Your dad loves his nut, as he refers to it, okay? So make him a fuck ton, and you will be the favorite son, you know?
Right.
And it's like, I feel like he could do that, because, you know, there's, in the opening, there's he's going to buy out this company, and they're like, I don't know. And he has to push back and forth. But just some of the shit he does with just like, okay, so, you know what? I think we just flip it. I think we just do this. Total mindfuck, bro. Just get in there and we'll just take them out, just boardroom style, straight up fascist, just fucking slit throats and drop bodies, bro. What do you think? And you're like, who the fuck are you? Like, who the fuck do you think
like,
you are?
You're just a bunch of buzzwords, dude.
Yeah.
You're just a bunch of like half-digested shit you read on the internet while you were high on cocaine. Like, that's all
you're a fucking addict. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just a bunch of ideas puffed up. And but again, that's the thing that it tricks you into with the human element, which is just like you said, yeah, you can relate to that. And the idea of like, well, I planned my whole life for this one thing, like to do this one thing. And then all of a sudden I was like told, oh, you can't do that yet. Or maybe not ever. And it's like,
but then,
well, I didn't prepare for anything else. And it's like, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, but then as fate would have it, well, now you get the chance to. And
but
you almost fucking ruin the entire thing with the little bit it's a shiny toy. And the minute that you get to hold it, all of a sudden there's blemishes and it starts cracking. You're like, what do I do? To the point that when your dad comes back and fucking pisses in your office, he takes the reins back. And it's like, what do you want more? Your dad's approval and being able to run this company, or you just want to fucking have money and be fine? Because you could totally do that.
That's my whole thing, dude. Is I'm just like, that's where you ultimately, it's like, but I can't feel too bad for you because this is all self-imposed. It's like, dude, I'm sorry you had a shit childhood with your fucking silver spoon up your ass. I'm sorry your daddy didn't love you enough. Fucking go enjoy your millions of dollars of your great fucking life. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
But then you're, again, the Libra in me, the like, oh, but I can see both sides, is like, oh, but they're like, no, literally, no one held them enough. No one loved them enough as a child. Nobody said the right thing. And so they're all broken human beings. And it's kind of sad, but it's kind of not at the same time.
Right.
Because ultimately, it's like, you can ultimately decide, I don't want to be a product of this bullshit side of me, or I don't want to turn into some like asshole rich person. You could take your entire inheritance, give most of it to charity, and live like a normal fucking human being. You could also choose to do that, but
in your mind, you're
not going to, because at the end of the day, it's not about the money. That's what they would all tell you. It's all about the fucking power. They all want to be the number one boy. They all want to be the top dog.
Well, and that's why I think,
or have the approval of the top dog, and that's the genius of fucking just taken away.
Yeah.
Because it breaks the whole game, dude. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, we're jockeying for position. Like, oh yeah, I'm in favor right now. No, I'm in favor, but I'm secretly in favor. And it's just like, at the end of the day, you pull him out of the equation. Like, none of you really, at the end of the day, have anything to live for, because all you've been living for is the approval of somebody who maybe, like, you never really needed it from in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I like about Connors, because like I feel like he gets it.
He's the only one who gets it.
He gets
and
it.
Has made peace with it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And like, did they make a comment at one point that like, I guess, had Roman used Willa's services, but like he never fucked her because he has that
because he's weird with sex. But yes.
Yeah.
She's a former
Right.
She's a former escort that Roman recommended to him. Yes.
Yeah. So it's
then of course Roman brings like the escort that Tom was with to the wedding. The same night, dude, we haven't talked about Tom and Shiv at all.
Yeah.
One of the most
it is
volatile romances,
listen.
And
some
interesting romances in the history of
some of the
television.
shit that they say to each other is like in the bedroom level.
Oh, 100%, dude.
If not cranked to 11.
Well,
and
dude,
I love it.
Oh, I live for it, dude. Almost as much as the Tom and Greg, the true love story of it, especially season 2, I feel like, is when they kind of realized the magic they had with the two of them together, and they're just like, oh, dude, we're just gonna lean into this shit, dude. It's
hardcore.
I love them together. The transition into the Disgusting Brothers a little bit harder to swallow, to be honest, because that's when I was like, dude, Greg is like, again, dude, tail end of season 3, when Greg is just like, oh, I got a little bit of cachet. Like I'm dating I can't remember her name. Sorry.
He was dating Logan's like lawyer lady, and then he like moved up to
and
this
then immediately
woman.
Is like trying to talk to the what is she gonna inherit? Luxembourg, I think. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's just immediately like, oh, I have a little bit of status now. Like I finally have some position. Now I'm in the rat race like all these other fucking people, and I was just like, dude, you're gross. I was like, I kind of never paid attention to how gross you are. Like, oh man. And then before you know it, he's rummaging to fruition at parties at Logan's.
I do, and I love so to start with, I appreciated Roman because Roman was always like, fucking money. I love my money. Why would I not fuck you? I love money, and like I get it. So like, yeah, you're a fucking prick, you're a piece of shit, but like you're honest.
Kind of most upfront about it for sure.
But then there's Tom, who in private conversations with his wife basically told her like, I'll do whatever I have to because like, as much as like I'm with you because I love you, but I love being rich, and as we've gotten to divulge more and more from them, it's one of those where I'm like, I rooted for Tom the most because he seemed the most ethical at some points and the most like deserving of it. Like, I'm going to basically be walked over, be the joke, be servile, do whatever needs to be done. So like his whole conniving, planning, behind the scenes deals, in people's ears thing, like I knew that was his game to begin with because he told me. And so, but to see where he's wound up in my head, I'm just like, I'm a little bit like, oh my God, you were the chosen one. What happened? You know what I mean? Like the end of season 3 when he walks in and you're like, fucking, he called him.
Yeah, dude.
He called him and told me.
Dude,
like,
that might be the most Logan move that anybody's made on this show other than Logan. That was smart as hell.
And like literally before they're getting on the plane, before Logan bites it, he's like, okay, yeah, you ask this person, I'll ask that person, and we're good to go.
Dude, it was such a great setup to that episode. It's just like all in a day's work and then roll into credits and then like, yeah, you do not fucking see it coming at all, dude. Genius to do it that early in the sorry.
Well, no, you don't see that. But like another thing, again, I want to reel it back because I want to want to go chronological. So like,
absolutely,
you don't
keep us on track.
Well, please. No, I knew it was coming because I'd seen it. But like, if you're on that tail end of one, and you're like, okay, he's doing everything he can. He's finally going to get everything lined up. He's got another deal with guys that are on his board. He tried and failed, and everybody got fired publicly. He looked humiliated. He's done all this, but he's back in the game. He's about to pull it all together. And, okay, he's kind of still using drugs. Okay, all right. Okay, his dad blew up at a busboy. All right, okay, it's fine. And then they go out, he goes, he's like, I gotta get a fix. I gotta get some more drugs. And you're like, all right, okay, Kendall, like, do your thing. Finds the busboy. Busboy's like, it's fine. Like, they paid me for the whole night. So I'm pretty good, and when the minute that they're driving, he's like, I don't do this a lot cause I'm rich and I get driven around. Even though I knew the scene, what it was, cause I'd seen it.
Right.
I'm imagining like watching that first time and being like, this is the moment where you're like, this is going to be fucked. The minute he's like, I don't drive that much. And again, things happen in a way that like, yes, Kendall was driving. The car went into the water. He got out and the other guy didn't. He did everything he needed to do to make it look like he wasn't there. And you're like, well, I feel bad. I feel bad because this guy died, but like the guy in the passenger jerked the wheel. Like, you don't ever do that. Don't do that. If he just goes straight and hits the deer, you're fine. But the other guy who's high on drugs next to you jerks the wheel, and you're like, huh? You don't drive that often. Bam, you're in the water. But you get up the next day, and Greg's the one that's like, hey, they're just kind of on edge because, a server, he died last night. Whoa, what? Yeah, like, I think he's pretty sure he's dead, Kendall. And you just walk back in, and Logan's like, so we found a key card next to the water, and you're like, oh fuck, it's over. He's done. Any leverage, anything he had, he is done. And he fucking breaks down in his daddy's arms, and he's like, you're a good boy, and blah blah blah. I'm like, that is fucking gangster. That is cold as fucking
dark,
shit,
dude.
That is the darkest fucking most like people. If you
that's
don't
when
know
I was
this,
hooked. That's when I was hooked.
If y'all don't know this, Noah and I did a little show called Manhunters. Brian Cox is the original Hannibal Lecter, and I don't think he's been more nefarious and dark and just twisted than he was in that scene of the last episode of season 1.
And this whole series has been, this is like the crowning achievement of his career.
He doesn't have
very
to do
illustrious career. But yes,
A career that includes Super Troopers, mind you.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
And Super Troopers 2, lest we forget. He showed up for the fucking sequel.
Yes, he did. So did Rob Lowe.
That's a G right there.
Yeah.
He also is narrating. So Broken Lizard, side note, has a new movie on Hulu called Quasi.
Yes. I need to see
I
it.
haven't watched it. I believe he's the narrator. Or he does some kind of voice in it. I'm like, that's class right there.
Yeah.
He's still buddies with them. I like that. That's a nice
And
touch.
what's the other big one? And obviously, I think most people our age were probably first introduced to him as Colonel William Stryker in X2.
Of course. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah. That's the first time I was like, oh, I know that guy. But
Yeah.
I definitely had seen him in other stuff.
Yeah, he'd been in other stuff before, but I can't really remember. And it's so weird because like I see Super Troopers, and then weirdly he looked a lot older than like he does. Like the facial hair makes him look 10 years younger. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, I thought James Cromwell died, and I realized I'm thinking of Pete Postlethwaite.
Postlethwaite.
Postlethwaite, yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Star of
different-
Among Giants.
Among Giants.
Yes.
Your love.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the Omen remake.
Yeah. And the town.
Oh God, the town, dude! Don't get me started on that.
No. The Gelder horse. I can't do his accent.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. What are we talking about? End of season 1. Yeah. No, that's when I was absolutely hooked. Where I was just like, oh, dude, this is dark and twisted. And then again, to have him basically checked the fuck out for the majority of season 2.
I saw his plan, and my dad's plan is better.
Where you're almost just like,
Yeah, I saw my
dude, you do a really good Kendall, by the way.
And like, well, and so you're right. He's checked out, and he's like, oh, I killed a guy. The fucking conversation he has with his brother and sister about it, when he finally comes
in season
clean.
3.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, so you killed a guy. I mean,
Dude,
who has it? Roman.
He's just like, no wonder it took so long to get a fucking drink.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm the one who suffered. Like,
yeah, I had to wait 30 minutes for a fucking martini. You know,
and he
like,
finally breaks him. I love it.
Yeah.
Just like hits the joke over and over again. That's fucking Roman, dude.
Yeah. You're right. He checks out for season 2, and then they're like, okay, well, we want to buy this other company.
Again, that turn at the well, yes, but yeah. So the turn to Pierce.
Yeah.
And
Which that woman who plays the matriarch,
is Cherry Jones. Excuse me.
She-
Legendary theater actress, and
She
of
is
course
in-
you will know the sheriff in Signs. I would say is her biggest role in
Well,
mainstream movies.
I think I don't know if I talked to you about this, but she is the like main nurse lady in Five Nights at Memorial, which is an Apple show about a hospital being hit by Hurricane Katrina. True to life. That like
Okay.
apparently there was questions of, did these nurses like help assist suicide people they couldn't move out of the hospital, yes or no? And Apple made a 5-part series about it with the blonde woman who's in it is a big deal. She's in the Conjuring movies, I think. I think she's the wife from the Conjuring movies. But
There's a recurring wife in the Conjuring movies.
who's Vera Farmiga?
Farmiga?
Yeah, she's like the main nurse that they're like going
Is she
out.
not blonde in those movies, bro?
No, she's blonde in the show.
She's not blonde in the Conjuring.
Right.
That's why you threw me off.
You're right, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think she's like the doctor that they're trying to like pin it all on. But it's
Dude,
good.
Apple-
Five Nights at Memorial, you gotta check it out. Anyway, but yeah, that's where I knew her
literally-
from. There's
Yeah,
so many people that
I'm
show up.
I'm so sorry. I'm just like, dude, Apple is just over there just doing their own thing.
Right.
They have so many shows. I'm like, that's a fucking show. I haven't heard of that. There's this Silo thing with Rebecca Ferguson.
Dude, I
I'm
can't
like,
wait. I gotta start that.
okay, we're gonna take a little sidebar in the midst of our Succession episode. I just
Okay.
wanted to ask you about this because you were trying to sell me on Ted Lasso, and
Mm-hmm.
I know I know you're not like all up on the internet and stuff, but see, all I see is the outsider stuff. I know there was a whole like reaction to season 2 versus season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was kind of a backlash, and then I've seen a lot of like hardcore backlash to season 3 and it being the final season, and a lot of like negativity towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you have you felt any of that watching it? And
I've
have you
felt
heard anybody like?
I have felt immense sadness knowing that I'm not going to get any more because it is one of the best shows ever.
Okay.
I'm talking like there is. I have to
So
just
what?
explain.
But do you without me, because I haven't read any of this stuff, but do you know what you think people are reacting to so negatively? Like, what has changed? Because it sounds like this show is like, season 1 is one thing, season 2 is like a completely different dynamic, and season 3 thusly. And I was just like, I thought this was just a show about like soccer, like, or football.
Football is life.
It's like a lighthearted comedy about football.
Right. And allegedly, thanks to Donald Trump, it became lighthearted because originally Sudeikis said like the character was going to be a lot more mean.
Okay.
But like, I think what people are mad about with Ted Lasso is the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, there's 2 or 3 more episodes and then we're done. And there's so much stuff that could have been elaborated on. We have some loose ends. We don't know what's what. And we're not trusting that like the writers were going to get us there, because there's like, season 1 is one season. Season 2 is, another one. And season 3 is, oh my God, we got up to the big leagues. And then they jump, like they're moving forward in time a good bit. And you do get the sense of like, I want to check in with these couple guys on the team. I want to see what this person's doing.
People think it feels a little rushed, and like people are getting shortchanged.
And the thing is, it's like, yes, it's a fish out of water thing. The comedy is where it is, because like there's an episode in season 1 or season 2 where they have a loss, and he says like, hey, or like he gives them the night off. And you stay with his Coach Beard. All you've heard is little bits, little quips of this guy. He's usually quiet. You follow him on a crazy, drug-filled night out through London that has him doing all these crazy things. And he gets back on the bus at the end of the morning, and he just like has some coffee, and then they leave and they go somewhere else. And you're like, wow, he just had this crazy, like, good time-esque night of adventure. And it's like, it's just nothing. He's just, all right, back on the bus. He's just quiet about it,
Mm-hmm.
But you've been on this journey with him. The show takes an episode just to devote to his assistant coach, just to give you a glimpse of like how wild this dude's life might be when he's not on screen. And then they never touch it again, and you keep moving. And it doesn't slow down to do that as much in the later seasons, because I feel like it got tighter. Like the jokes, the humor, the comedy of it all, it got so much better. And then like, to me, it started showing a lot more heart than you would expect, because there's a whole bit where one of the players on the team, like,
you don't have,
I just want to explain this to like get what people are like, not what people don't understand about it. One of the star players on the team, he basically gets, in one episode, he gets insulted by his own father in front of the entire team. And they drag the father out of there. And the hardest veteran dude that used to be an asshole, he just runs up to him and grabs him and hugs him. And you're like, oh shit. Like, I fucking started crying. Because there's so much baked into that. That people don't even think about in that moment. Mm-hmm. Like, both of these guys dated the same girl, and they were both in love with her. They were at odds with each other. The older dude does not want to see the younger dude become him. But he doesn't know how to tell him that, because he's this grizzled old fucking like badass footballer dude that can't show emotion, So there's all that wrapped up in it, and I think people are just mad that they are afraid they're not going to get the payoff, and they're wondering, why are you doing all these other things to me if I only get 10 episodes and I'm done? Why are you introducing these little subplot things that don't really matter to me, because I'm not going to get them after this episode? Wind it down. It feels like you're just going to leave everything open, and I have to have everything tied up in a bow to end with. I think that's people's problems. Okay. But I still encourage anybody.
I was just curious, because I don't know. I've just seen a lot of shit about it lately.
Maybe people are mad that it was 30 to 45-minute episodes the first season, and now basically everything's been an hour since, and they can't appreciate that we're getting more when we're getting less. I mean, we're still getting 10 episodes, that most of them are an hour. It's like you're getting double the amount of content.
Okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. All right. Interesting in the context of shows ending and different reactions to them, where I would say, again, this was, very, very well hidden. I don't know. I know some critics had seen the first 4. So obviously they had the twist, if you will, of season 4.
Right.
Spoiled for them. But everybody kept it relatively quiet, because it was in real time thing where I was like,
well, here's the thing.
what the fuck?
You
Like,
told me that, right?
Yeah.
And Becky, I was like, hey, I'm going back through this. And she's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I watch when there's a new one. She didn't fucking say a word to me. And I'm like, well, thanks for not ruining it. That's great. Because she really wouldn't. I don't think she would ruin it. But I mentioned casually, I'm going back through it. I'm doing this. So we're like talking about it as I'm catching up with like, I'm at this part, I'm at that part.
Good on her.
But yeah, she did the same as you. She didn't even mention the fact that it happened. She's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm past that. And I'm like, well, can we not talk about it? Like, how fucking crazy is that? You know? Because as you're getting through, we were talking about them meeting the family, and there's some comedy in that of like each of them has their own. Like,
okay, we're zipping back to we're
right,
in season 2. Thank you for keeping us on track.
And you know, Logan is so itched to like fucking get this deal done, and it's for the first time I was like, fuck yeah, dude, because he basically gets fucking told no by a woman, a matriarch, and you're like, dude, this fucking guy, you know, like who?
Well, and of course it's like you think Shiv is on track to like, oh, okay, I see how she fits. She makes sense on paper.
He's already talked to her about like, it's gonna be you. I'm gonna offer it to you. So when the push comes to shove, where the woman's like, well, if we're gonna do this, it's got to be Shiv that takes over. You need to announce.
It's just because
and his residence to like he cannot give it over.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what child it is. He does not want to give it up.
And also a little bit of part of it is exactly what you're saying. It's because it's because she's saying it, because she's like, oh, well, clearly you'll choose Siobhan. And it's like, well, no, now it sounds like you're forcing me to do it. No. Now I'm doing it because a woman told me to do it. No.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're saying too, where I'm just like, he never until 4, where I genuinely think he was going to give it up. He was going to take his piece and just move over to, well, not give it up. He was going to move over to ATN and probably just like, you know,
he was going to let Mattson do his thing. He was going to let the Swede take it all.
Well, no,
except for ATN.
Yeah, but he was probably going to go full bore into that and like, you know, make it even more of a nightmare. But it seems like it's already headed that direction, anyways. But yeah, dude. So
and then,
that okay. So we're back. Where are we at?
Well, no, we come off of that, and he's like, "I'm not," and that's kind of like the first like you've already gotten Logan or Kendall being like, "Fuck, damn, under the thumb of Dad." Now I shot my shot to try and take over, couldn't do it. Then you get this is basically Siobhan's point to where it's like, all right, now I realize like as much as I didn't want it, I do want it, and Daddy said I could have it.
Yeah, she's completely sucked in.
Yeah, Daddy said I could, and now Daddy says I can't, blah, 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 blah. And they're basically sitting around being like, okay, well, someone's going to fucking go down for this. Because...
dude, I love this. That's the boat, right? The, like, luxury yacht.
Yeah.
Where they basically all have to, like, sing for their supper.
Right.
Like, decide who should...
Right. And, you know, they're like, Rome, you're fine. You're not on the chopping block. And it's because, you know, he could easily sell his son out and be like, my son's the reason why that guy died. The scene where they have to go back and fucking, like, apologize to the guy. Brian Cox is playing it like, it seemed like there's some genuine, like, the way he's playing it with the other actor that's the dad, you get it, like, he's turning it on that, like, I'm so sorry for this. I shouldn't have yelled at him, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, your fucking kid in the car with you who won't get out is, like, ultimately... the reason why this happened. He's responsible for it to a fault. Yes, he was in the car, he was driving. The other guy put the wheel, but like if your shit kid is not in the car with his son, who they already think is a druggie or whatever. And that's the only thing I could say about the writing that I'm just like, because it seems like there's some minor circumstances where everything just kind of works out, you know, like just that little bit of like, oh, they thought he was a druggie already. You could take that out, and it would still play that like. They understand it was an accident. You know, it wasn't him yelling.
I still think that information could still come into play. I think there's some lingering things, and maybe some things we're not even thinking of.
Oh no, he shouldn't have told his brother and sister that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Dude, I'm having killer fucking deja vu vibes right now.
Oh yeah.
So weird. I feel like we've talked about something like this. But yeah. And so you're on the boat.
I was going to say, that happens all the time in this room, and it's literally just because it's, yeah.
Probably. Yeah, so, but you
spend a lot of time in here.
Yeah.
With a microphone in front of my face.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. But you get to, so it was like, getting into like the end of 2, he takes his chance to be like, you know what? I'm going to fucking stick my dad to this. I'm going to fucking I'm going to call him out on it.
Dude, when it happened, I did a full 180 on Kendall, and I was like, "Do you fucking go? Take him down! Do it!" And I rolled into season 3 with that energy, and Swiftly was just like, "Oh yeah, I fucking forgot you suck so hard, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck the patriarchy."
Oh my God. Should I give him a little something? Fuck the patriarchy. It's
Dude, have you ever watched the YouTube? I want to almost wait till it's updated, but there is a Kendall Roy's cringiest moments compilation on YouTube, dude. It is just 8 minutes of you're just like, oh, it's like you're just a full body heave, dude. But yeah, that is the ultimate one though. Is fuck the patriarchy. Walking into that, just. He thinks he's so fucking with it, dude, and he's just so fundamentally uncool.
Yeah. I do, and
it doesn't matter
it's
how expensive his lo-fi chic stuff is. I'm just like, dude, I know you
have fucking children.
Yes,
you have
children who we never see.
You never see them at all.
You could have taken the route of oh, my fucking dad just completely fucked me. Essentially, turned me into a drug addict. And that's laying a lot of shit at the feet of your dad when you could have personally just gotten your shit together. Let's remove all of that from the equation. You could have made the decision. Oh, I'm gonna be the best fucking dad ever, dude. I got money. My kids are never going to want for anything, but here's the difference. I'm going to be connected to them. I'm going to be involved in their lives. I'm going to shower them with love and affection, all this stuff. And it's oh, actually, no, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to spend all my every waking moment figuring out how to get the approval of my dad, who clearly does not like me, who thinks I'm a piece of shit, because he's probably right, because I am.
My dad, listen.
That's the real dark secret, is I think Kendall knows. Kendall, on the inside, he knows he sucks. He's so deeply insecure, and that's the real
that's the driving
sadness
force
and tragedy of that character. Is just a guy who cannot help himself, who knows he's broken, and in spite of it, just can't change it ever.
This is gonna sound really stupid. He's not Kendall Roy. He's Ken Dull Roy. That's it. He's just he doesn't matter, because there's so many times where it's
big shoes.
Yeah,
big shoes.
Yeah, fucking big shoes. Yeah, okay.
Shoes.
Yeah, fucking say it again, Kendall.
Big nervous breakdown.
Yeah. But so yeah, you get the flip of that. Then you get into 3, and it's slowly you're starting to see okay, and then fucking Adrian Brody shows up for a whole episode. I'm what more can this show give me? What does it give me? It gives me fucking Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Are you?
And you're just a little taste, and you're I like this, and then you're oh, he's gonna become a permanent fixture of season 4.
The fucking thorn in everyone's side. I
essentially
love it.
The big bad, the new adversary, the new Logan. Yeah. So yeah, 3. Again, I guess I feel like we keep neglecting it, but Tom and Shiv.
Yeah.
Season 1.
They get married.
She's cheating on him the whole time, and they get to the marriage, and it's oh, well, I thought, we're gonna have an open marriage. And he's news to me. Okay. That's fucking weird. Season 2, I don't really remember.
They're still playing.
What's going on with them? They're kind of just...
They're still playing it, and when she lines up and is yeah, I think it's gonna be I think I want it. I want to get in more. He's okay. Where does that leave me? But I remember,
he's a little bit but I thought we were going to engineer this so that I could be number 1 boy.
Right.
Because I'm a boy. Don't forget that.
Right.
But yeah.
And so they move into that, and then you get, the flip of 2, and he's kind of still, he's the head of ATN now, and you get back and forth. And as we move through 3, as Kendall is slowly getting brother and sister on board, hey, you know what? We could freeze him out. We could stop it. She's, still being open with him about things, and they're going back and forth with stuff. And it almost feels like they made an agreement. Maybe they talked about it. Maybe I'm forgetting in a piece of conversation where they weren't worrying about kids. Like, she was like, I'm going to freeze my eggs. Like, I'm not going to try and have kids right now. I can't do that with you right now. And he takes that as like, well, you don't want to have babies with me. And to me, I think that conversation happens. And that's when the turn comes to where, like, she's letting him know, like, hey, this is going down. We're going to go push this. If we do this, you know, because of the divorce decree, mom said, you know, our mom said this. He has to get us so, but if we all three band together, we can kill this fucking deal, merger deal. We're good, and we're going to go for it, you know? And this is after they've already talked to fucking, no, they haven't talked to them yet because that happens in the fourth. You're right. But, and so, you know, everything's gearing up for this big showdown in 3, and we have the big end of season 3, which is like, he stayed behind with Mattson. He's been working this deal. He's still in Europe. He's gotten in touch with your mom who's like, you know, just gotten remarried. And, okay, well, if you'll scratch my new husband's back, I'll scratch your back, and I'll rip up the old divorce decree, and you just get your friends in the British government to contact my husband, you know, and all's fair. And just that scene of like, oh, mom, you fucked us, you know? And you're like, how did all this happen? And then just fucking Tom shows up, and it's the ultimate of like, he was more worried about being left out in the cold, not trusting his wife to be there for him.
Because she's given him no reason to think that she would.
She hasn't, but behind the scenes, she has, because she flat out tells him, it can't be Tom. Tom cannot be the one that has to go down for the ATN bullshit. Or the cruises stuff. Honestly. So he doesn't, it's again, lack of communication, miscommunication. She has been fighting for him behind the scenes. He has taken the fact that his station has not changed as much to mean that she isn't. So he takes it upon himself to be more servile, like, Logan, I could do this for you. I'm more than prepared to go to jail for you over the whole document thing that Kendall brings up with the whole, like, oh yeah, there was proof that we shredded all this stuff, and like, it was a bad deal. Tom Wambsgans was the guy at the top at the time. Like, it should go on him. Yeah, he's at ATN now, but he was over the cruises department and all that. He took over right before all this came out. And, you know, because she even goes to see one of the victims that they were going to have testify. And like, probably one of her worst moments has to basically like convince this woman to not testify about one of the worst times of her life.
That's pretty gross.
And you can see like what you could, and the way it just in her face, you can see her being like, I fucking, like, as a woman, detest having to do this. But I'm still doing it because ultimately it's my husband's ass, my ass, possibly my company that I could run's ass if I don't. And, you know, see, it's so much conveyed with that, but then they get back and forth with it with like the whole, they're in the middle they're about to have sex or they're just about to do something, and she's like, you don't fucking, like, you love me and you're still with me even though I don't fucking love you. And he's like, that shit fucking hurt. And she's like, I was just playing a role, like I wasn't being serious. And he's like, no, you were. Like,
yeah, she's like, this is what we do, right? This is our dynamic.
Yeah.
Because again, she's got a lot of Logan in her, and she has that whole kick you and see if you come back sort of thing. So,
yeah, some of the fucking shit they've said to each other, dude. Especially like the last episode when they're on the balcony going back and forth.
That's an all-timer.
In my head, I'm like, Tom, do not throw yourself over the side of this railing.
Oh, I legit, like,
until he went back inside, I was scared. I was like,
thought
dude,
that possibly could happen. I was just like, like, because again, as much as everything's thrown into flux with Logan dying, it's like him to the biggest extent, because like, dude, you cut all ties, kind of like you betrayed your wife at the end of season 3, and we also should have mentioned the reveal before the reveal is after he talks to Shiv, he goes and talks to Greg, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna make a deal with the devil, like, are you coming along, basically? And there's the whole, like, what do I need a soul for anyways, conversation. And again, firmly cementing where I was like, fuck you, Greg. Like,
well, see, and that's the only, that would be, and obviously they've made it legit that like he did do that because he shows up, but in my mind, I'm watching that scene, I'm like, is he gonna tell Greg what's what so Greg can be the one to tell Logan, so that he has deniability of like, I thought I could trust Greg.
Probably would have been the smarter move,
right?
Honestly.
Yeah, tell Greg what's up. You know it's going to get back to Logan, and that way your wife doesn't have to fucking like, you don't have to go through that. So but we never saw him talk to Logan. Logan just knows, and when Tom walks in at the end, we assume, oh my God, Tom sold him out. But I'm wondering if like that's a get out of jail free card he hasn't played yet, because he's all about, hey, if you have something, don't play it. So if at the end of it all,
when he mentioned that in this or in the election episode, my brain did start running wild with like, what could he be referring to? Because obviously, if there's anybody I would expect to be like sitting on some shit, honestly, it would be Tom. I would love to see Jerry. We haven't talked about Roman and Jerry, dude. We could go on forever and ever. Yeah. But yeah, their whole fucked dynamic, the dick pic, all of that stuff. Dude. But culminating with the previous episode.
Well, the night we were in season 2, the night that they have to stay with the other family, he does the whole like, can you like I have a weird stage fright thing. Like, can you just talk down to me through the door so I can just like jerk off or something? And she's like, no, what the fuck? Like, get the fuck in that bathroom. You know, this and that, and like you get more and more of the weird complex of him, which I think is fucking hilarious. You know, because like obviously we know Kendall fucks, but if Kendall, if it's almost like, you know, Rome, if you could fuck, then maybe you would be like the dude. But that weird hang up you have,
weird sexual
older lady mommy thing, like that's your crutch. Like you finally come to terms with like, okay, you accidentally sent your dad a dick pic, and he's like, something fucking wrong with you, fucking queer. Like, you know, he's like, no, people just like send each other their dicks now. It's like, they don't do that, dude. Stop trying to. The way that he expresses like the dick pic thing to his father is so like a little boy not trying to get in trouble for something that he knows he did, but he can't admit that he did it. You know what I mean?
That is, one of the running themes, and it's never been more evident than season 4. But these are just little children.
Yes,
like grown ass little children, dude.
Oh yeah, when he fires the fucking studio woman, and then Jerry's like, you can't do that. He goes, maybe I'll just fucking fire you. And he like, no, you definitely can't do that, dude. Like,
dude,
one of her
best moments of acting too, when she's like, I am good at my job, motherfucker. Like, oh, dude. But yeah, her coming back strong with the just like, you know what? Actually, fuck all this shit. I'm cashing in. I'm like, you're giving me the best like exit package ever. Like hundreds of millions of dollars if you fuck with anything, dude. And I like, I would kind of love to see maybe all of the dominoes start to fall, basically, and all the skeletons come out of the closet, and like Kendall fucking goes down, because guess what, dude? You fucking basically got away with murder and like had it covered up for you because you're a rich boy. Maybe you should go down for that, or any number of other things you've done. And
what do you think of like Fisher Stevens showing up as like the fucking?
Dude, I love Hugo. Hugo. Yeah, dude, the bench is so fucking ridiculously stacked, deep on the show that, and again, the fact that like I would watch a whole other show that's just Jerry, Carl, and Frank, and that whole front, and like
I would listen if they wanted to do like a Succession prequel with like him building his company when he has small children. I would watch the fuck out of that. Like media mogul trying to come up through the ranks and like acquire all this shit. Fucking shark bull in the fucking boardroom, like, you know, snapping necks, cashing checks, that kind of, like, that's fucking crazy. Like I would watch that in a heartbeat. And you have all that baked, like having all that baked in of like, at the end of the day, as much as he is like maybe misogynist, maybe he's a bit racist, like, you know, obviously, like, he's a kingmaker, you know? Obvious with, like, it is season 3 where they go and they basically pick the DA from Harry Mason to be the next Nazi president, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you're like, that's when you own...
Justin Kirk. I was trying to think of his name.
That's when you... That's one of the only times where you see Shiv be like, no, what? No. That's, to me, that's her, you know, like, and not again, just because she worked for the other candidate, but, like, we don't like Nazis, but, like, we're going to back this guy? And it's all because, like, Rome gets to him. It's like, just bring him a fucking Coca-Cola. You know? Because I love that move of calling the fucking vice president. It's like, I need a Coca-Cola. And he's like, There's not one in you. Shouldn't you be calling room service? You're done. Not like it's the minute you don't say yes, sir, you're done. He's not backing you, Mr. Vice President. You're fucked. Right. And I love, like, I know that. I know that character. I know how that works. But to people who, like, don't know that thing about, like, that's how people operate, it has to be just like like, oh, wow. And then the Nazi guy brought him a Coke. And now they're buddies. Because, yeah, he just asked for one simple thing. And, you know, he did it for him. And Logan joked, well, can you fucking, you know, can you shave some criminal justice codes down for me so that I, you know, whatever. You know, if you're not going to bend the justice system, then, yeah, I guess I'll take just the Coca-Cola, but you can't even give me that. You know?
So they pick the Republican candidate.
Right.
And then a season later, they basically, a full season later, because I think that's roughly the episode.
Like 4 or 5, somewhere in there.
They also crown him on television. They make the call, even though sounds like there's some nefarious shit going on in Milwaukee.
I'm waiting for it to be overturned.
Dude,
that's Rome's downfall, dude. So he gets called out for being the one that made the call.
No. That's going to be laid at the feet of Tom. Because he's the face of it, of ATN in the call. Mm-hmm. So he's fucked. Rome and Kendall, the board will be like, what the fuck were you idiots? You know, I could see it going that route. I could see, Jerry coming out of the woodwork, finally dropping the dick pic. I could see Shiv in some sort of move with Mattson, thinking she's like somehow going to get a leg up, passing along the information about Kendall murdering a guy, and then Mattson using that. I could see any number of things happening. But I know we have a funeral, and then I have no idea what the finale would be. I do know it's extended. I know it's an hour and a half. But, I don't know. I also don't know if there is a company at the end of this.
Yeah.
I don't know if the show is going to ultimately... There's two ways to do it, or there's a couple ways to do it, obviously. There's a lot of ways we obviously won't think of, but it's kind of like, do we have the overall cynical ending of like, well, shit, life just goes on because for these people, life does just go on. It's like there are no like grander consequences or anything. Do we get to like have some kind of finality to some of those lingering things like we're talking about? Like, do these people have some sort of downfall or comeuppance? And is that the show overall like kind of showing its cards? If it's like, hey, this was a satire the whole time, and just so we make sure, like, you weren't supposed to be rooting for these people. I know some of you were, but yeah.
I wouldn't mind an out of left field where like one of the people that you've seen, that you know, that's a recurring, like a Hugo or like somebody that they've been working for the FBI the entire time.
What is it? Carolina,
she's been working with the FBI the entire time. Insider trading, voter fraud, all this other bullshit. Like, she's just fucking collecting a well.
Yeah.
And not even like, and it's, she's better than that because she doesn't even like, hey, I've been working with the FBI. I'm an informant. So I need to be on the up and up. I'm going to let them know all this shit. It's like, she's actually a good person. Or he's actually a good person, whoever it is, and they just lay it all out. They're like, this is what happens. You know, I tried to help you and guide you. Similarly with Jerry, she's like, I could have gotten you there, but you wouldn't listen. Like, you wouldn't do it. You know? Yeah. So I would love it if, like, Carl or Frank or any of these dudes is secretly been, like, since, like, Logan passed, being like, okay, I'm going to get taken care of, because fucking Carl tells him straight up. He's like, if you fucking do anything to fuck with this deal, I'm going to fucking squeal. And you're like,
oh, dude, I love it. It's like, you may have my dick in your hand, but yours is in mine.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. David Rashi is fucking killer, dude. All of them. And then I love, dude, when when Tom is like trying to throw his hat in the ring, he's like, so, you know, this is not me saying, but some people might say that you're a ridiculous interloper, right? And the only person who even gave a shit about you is dead.
Right. Dude, that was probably my favorite thing, is the juxtaposition, because the way that Tom plays that scene of like, hey, Shiv, it's your dad. Hey, I'm gonna put the phone right up to him. You can talk to him. Like, we all know people who've been that. That seems genuine. That seems like Tom is like, I need to let these people talk to their dad. Not like he's trying to pull any angles for a good bit. But you have the juxtaposition of like, everybody who's worked with the man for 20 years is in another room already drafting up what they're going to say, because we see it the next episode where Rome's like, that's dad right there. The fucking stock drop, you know? That's what his legacy amounts to a day after he's dead. It's like the company he founded is tanking. You know what I mean? So the juxtaposition of all of them, and even Frank and them say, it's like, I worked with the man for 20 years and he's dead in there, but this is a business I have to run. Like,
right.
I can't, you know, just because I feel and like I actually am sad that he's dead. I may have not liked him, but I work with him and like he's gone. That realness of it all is like, I totally understand that. Having worked with people that I get emails, I've gotten emails at work that this lady passed away. You know, some were working at the company at the time, some had already gone, but like, I'm sad that they've passed. I want to go to their funeral, but like, I have people in my face are questioning why they got an overdraft fee or some bullshit. You know what I mean? So like that juxtaposition, and then watching everybody slowly try to line up as a jockey in the race to see where they're going to find out. And then the fucking Kill List episode where all of them are trying to like go at their Norwegian or Swedish counterparts or whatever.
Yeah,
and Hugo's just, and they like, oh fuck, Katarina got retained. Oh fuck this, fuck, you know, they're all like, oh shit, this person's still on the line, you know.
Well, and that was all Shiv.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shiv's the one who got them all to stick around. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, that was one aspect I didn't really talk about. So, again, the Roman thing at the end of 3 broke me, but the only other time I've really gotten, like, emotional watching the show was the episode where he dies. And again, it wasn't like oh my God, we've lost Logan, like that kind of sadness, where it was just like, they did this so effectively, it feels so real, and it taps into, again, those human emotions that kind of override everything, where it's like, some of this shit is universal. Everybody can relate to the idea of like, what if I lost a parent unceremoniously at a distance, I hadn't said everything I wanted to say, that
or
feeling
in the case
of like,
Roman, where
the
like
time
he
has
sent a
disappeared.
terrible
Oh
voicemail.
yeah. That whole aspect.
And then like, I think I think what you're talking about is best portrayed before they go get Connor, and she turns to him and says, why didn't you come and get me?
Oh, dude,
and they were like, we tried to, and it's like,
all of that interpersonal, like the way you would get irrationally upset about stuff in the moment, but also be apologetic in it. Like, everything is just so pitch perfect and real in that moment that it's like, yes, that is the kind of shit that ultimately does allow you to like, I am empathizing with these people who I think patently I know are not good people and I'm not supposed to like on any kind of fundamental level, but at the end of the day, they are human beings, and
they're just kids whose dad died.
Yes, they're just somebody who just lost their parent, and to be able to still hit those notes, even as we're like, this is all hilarious, this is great satire, this is dark, this is disturbing, this is whatever, to be able to still, at the end of the day, like, wring that out of you, I was like, that's when I was like, this show is like next level, dude. It goes, it immediate, I mean, it already to me has kind of been there, but it goes in the all-time, the pantheon of the greats of the last, like, you know, several years, several decades.
And then and
it's not even over yet. That was the other thing, is I was just like, this cements it already. I was like, people will be talking about this single episode on best of list for till the end of time, dude. Yeah.
And then to like, you know, what was I gonna say? And then like the next episode where you've got like them all, like they're at the
all huddled together,
like his apartment.
The discovery of the note, dude.
The note, yeah, dude. Like, just
I want a T-shirt with Kendall Roy like almost underlined, maybe not.
And then I love that Greg's like, well, maybe hold on, maybe he as a like a close
I should be
part of the. Relax, Greg. Your name's just on a fucking piece of paper.
I think they were like, you're a footnote with a question mark in pencil or something. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much Greg as a character. Also, that moment where, again, it's been like, oh, the three of us, we could do this together. We could make something happen.
That was real, right? What we were going to do was real.
Well, but immediately in that moment when they get the piece of paper and Kendall's just like, well, it sure as shit doesn't say Shiv. And I'm just like, dude, immediately wants to throw her under the bus. And that's been the background of all this shit. And going back to the election episode that just happened, dude, they're fucking falling out. Like, I loved it because, again, time and time again, we see them make the most catastrophic decisions for the world at large, all because of personal bullshit. And that's the scariest thing, is you're like, because I know that's how it is. I know that's how it is, because even these people who we like to like sanctify and like hold up as like somehow they're like holier than thou because they've attained some level of success, they must know something that I don't, and like they're so much more savvy. It's like they're still susceptible to the same fucking bullshit. They had a rough day, except their rough day affects millions and millions of people. That's the fucking difference. And it's just like, my moral compass and my daughter being at stake and being like wronged by these people who I'm essentially tacitly endorsing or like publicly endorsing. It's on my network. But I'm gonna kind of look the other way and not really get involved in this. And then ultimately, I'm going to not step in when I'm kind of the deciding factor. I could say, don't call it for him yet. I'm fucking CEO. Like, you need both of us to sign off. It's not just Roman. No. But it's all motivated by like, oh, Shiv, you just fucked me. Dude, when he calls her a piece of dirt, that kind of shit where you're just like, that's so much meaner than like calling somebody like a piece of shit or a bitch or like any number of other things you could say to them.
That the only better thing is, I've said it before, when his father says he's a fucking nobody, because
dude, when he
thinks
tells
he's
them,
a someone.
I literally made a song called Not Serious People, because when he tells them all in the karaoke bar, I love you, but you're not serious people. I was like, truer words have never been spoken, dude. All of the every single one of them is a fuck up, and that's the other thing, is the hubris of, again, I think Roman knows who the fuck he is, and that's kind of the most scary thing about him, is he is who he is, and he is very self-aware, I think. Maybe he doesn't deal with emotions very well or processing grief. Maybe he's not honest with himself on that level, but like Shiv and Kendall, I both think have these like, you know, inflated versions or like how they see themselves. And it comes down to Shiv in like the election episode where it's like, oh, well, we've got to care about democracy and everything. And I'm just like, at the end, no. I'm like, you can't get on your fucking high horse now and pretend like you're not part of the fucking problem with all of this shit. You could cash out tomorrow and take all your wealth and invest it in fucking like community causes and stuff and like actually bettering people's lives, but you're not gonna do it. So shut the fuck up. Like, don't act like you're fucking better than either of your brothers in this room right now, who are just as equally as shitty as you are. The only difference is Roman is way more vocal about it, and it was a real like, god damn it, dude, I love Kieran Culkin. It's a fantastic performance. I thought, dude, when he's on the mountaintop with fucking Mattson, I was like, Emmy, dude. Emmy real.
When
he
was like,
that was delicious. That was magnetic. That was perfection. That was everything in one scene.
And I love that, like, you hear Kendall like, easy brother, like he knows what he's doing, but he lets him go for it, and it's like he doesn't hold back. And it's just, to me, it's like a weird bonding thing.
I just fired Jerry, Shiv's godmother, Jerry.
Yeah.
Fuck it, bro. Let's roll without just like,
who you gonna fire next?
I'm like, yeah.
Wow. All right. Because it's God, because dude. In the weird thing, in those cringe pauses, in my head, I'm like, okay, Kendall knows this is not good at all. But what's easier for him to do? Call his brother out on like, bro, this is not good, or be like, fuck it, bro. You know, the kids are in charge now. Like, we're all better.
Again, because none of them can be like actually serious with each other to the point where they all think that everything is constantly a bit. But yeah, particularly Kendall, who again only speaks in buzzwords and like, you know, jargon, and you're like, what that's just a bunch of gobbledygook, dude. That shit doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, But maybe it does, dude. Maybe I'm just not fucking on the level. I'm not processing at 100%.
Yeah, talk about your numbers, right? Like subs are so good right now. Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Well, I heard your numbers are gay. They did a little test and it came back that your numbers are
gay.
Dude, Sarsgaard is having an absolute ball.
Dude, I fucking
love this character. The ultimate reveal, of course, that like, oh yeah, you're full of shit too.
No, that's my thing, because it's like that probably motivates Kendall even more, because he's like, motherfucker, like, you're gonna do to me what I tried to do to you with inflating numbers, but you hit it a little bit better. And if it wasn't from you, if you had not been an asshole to Ebba, your little communications girl, and me and my brother running up to her like sniveling little dogs trying to get all the gossip, I wouldn't have known about it. I was about to like fucking, I've been trying to take the deal, but like, you know,
it just kind of hit me, dude. Mattson is literally all of the Roys rolled into one.
Yeah.
Minus Connor, basically. Mm-hmm. But it's like, he's got the weird sex stuff.
Yeah.
Like Roman. He's got the Kendall, like, galaxy-brained gobbledygook, but, like, he can actually, like, make it work kind of thing.
And they give it to you.
And he's again got the flash of, like, he's not an actual programmer. He didn't actually do it. He inherited this.
He's a Steve Jobs.
They propped him up. Exactly.
He's a Steve Jobs.
And that's all that Kendall has ever wanted to be. Never
Steve
more
Jobs.
evident than in the investors meeting where he goes down and talks about living plus.
Yeah. I wish they would have taken him out of that jacket and let him have jeans and a fucking black t-shirt. I would have been like, I get it.
Dude, when Roman quietly is just like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. It's just like, it's all you, brother. But then, like, Kendall looks so hurt. Like, genuinely looks so hurt that, like, well, my little brother's not, like, my little brother bailed on me. Like, he doesn't believe in me either.
Wait a minute. I backed you when you wanted to fire those ladies.
I think that's the moment when he's like, all right, one crown, one head, motherfuckers.
Yeah, because he goes directly to Carl after that and asks him, like, what do you think? You know?
Dude.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to, and it's one of those things I think I've mentioned off mic. I don't know if I said it here. They're all sitting around at his wake, like will thing, whatever, where they get the note about Kendall. And he looks at them and is like, guys, of course it could be all three of us, but like, come on, think about it. The firstborn son being promised something and not getting it. And Connor just being like, hey, fuck you. I'm the firstborn. And you're like, oh. Like, okay, sorry. Like, they have to be like, oh, yeah, sorry. Like, yeah, you are the firstborn, but, like, in this group, I'm the firstborn.
Right.
And it's all...
I'm the firstborn who matters.
And they make it seem like Connor could have had all this, but he just didn't want to get involved. And he was
probably content to just, like, yeah, live his life. And then kind of vaguely was like, oh, maybe I should kind of try and make Pop proud after all of this.
Because that's the first thing he says when they're like, oh, I never got to make him proud. Like, that's what it's on his fucking wedding day. He's going to go get married.
That's rough, man.
Like, and that's the thing is, like, that happens to that kid, his firstborn son, on his day of his wedding, to a former prostitute. And all his political ambitions, all that shit, all he wanted was to make his dad proud. He couldn't do it. And, like, that happens to him on his wedding day. And these other three are like, oh my God, it's so sad. The world's falling. Like, Dad, this and that. It's like, bro, y'all not even taking a minute to be like, sorry, Connor. They don't even fucking go get him until they find out he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the last thing
thing they think about. Because in my head, the minute he's like, go get Shiv, I'm like, go get your other brother. Go get your half brother. But like, nope. They'll wait until he's like, I think he's probably dead, but you can still talk to him on the phone. And Tom's going to put him up to his ear, so he'll hear you. It's like, no, he won't. He's dead. Oh my God. And I do love Roman's refusal through most of it. Like, but we don't really know. Do we? Like, we don't know he's actually dead, but he might be. So, fuck it. Let's wait till we get him on the ground, and we'll go from there. Yeah. You
know? It's been talked about a lot in, like, the various aftercasts and everything, but you've kind of, I assume you've picked up on the fact that, like, most of what we've seen in season 4 is, like, days. Like,
right. Yeah.
It's almost like each episode is a day. I think we've had one or two where it's like we've transitioned day to night and restarted essentially. But
we did the culmination
of like, all right, you guys have like flown to Sweden, you've come back, or Norway, excuse me, you've come back. you guys have election night, and then your dad's funeral is the next day, and it's just like, when are any of them sleeping, or probably like they are making all of these decisions, these like life-changing decisions.
You have your shareholders meeting in the middle of all that as well.
Essentially on fumes, dude. But yeah, okay. They basically all seem completely at odds at this point, even though I guess vaguely Kendall and Roman still have. Well, again, that was kind of blown up when, again, Kendall has the very successful speech that seems like it's going off the rails, but he totally salvages and it ends up going good. And I think Roman's kind of like, oh, fuck. And what have I been doing? I fired a studio head. I fucked up there. I fired Jerry. Kind of fucking up left and right. But what do I have in my back pocket? Me and Mencken have this weird, like, kinship and, like, you know, we're just vibing. So I'm going to go down that route.
Which
now.
is what Kendall
And now
would
I have a
want
direct line to the president. And it's like, but now that's the thing is, like, now Roman doesn't need Kendall at all.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, we've never really seen them duke it out, so to speak. It's always been under the guise of Logan usually showing favor to Roman and using that as like a wedge point between the two of them. But we've never really seen, okay, with the gloves off and with Dad out of the picture, like, what do the two of them going at each other look like? And again, there's still Shiv sitting over there with, I don't know why she's still playing the Matson card, but like that seems like maybe all she has left at this point. She has no Tom. She has no fucking alliances anywhere else.
That's her leverage, just because she's been on the inside. That's her leverage, just trusting and hoping that this, you know, European guy who's kind of the same as your brother, but a little bit better at doing it, more likable, a lot sexier when it comes to doing it, that he's gonna like take care of you if you help him get this deal done, which has just been dealt a major blow because now the new president that your younger brother has put his hat in the race with is probably going to move in and possibly sink the deal.
sword fought with.
Right. Yeah. And probably going to sink that deal.
I would love it if the finale is just the two of them like making out in the Oval Office.
Right.
Credits.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roman finally finds his sexual match. He's like, oh, it just needed to be the president. I didn't know that. Turns out I just needed to fuck the president.
Right. I needed to get fucked by the president.
Yes.
Turns out I
needed the president to tell me how much I sucked while
I jerked off
while I was jerking off. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, dude. The funeral, and he's supposed to give the speech, right?
They asked Kendall.
No. Remember, Kendall, they're having the debate about who it should be, and then at the end of which episode was that?
Was that the night before the election?
The night before the election, I guess. Was at the party, yeah. They decided he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Or Roman's doing it, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, we have the funeral, and then I guess the fate of the company, or I guess it'll be that final board meeting to decide whether the sale goes through or not. That's probably what it'll be centered around. Or they'll pull a fast one on us and, like, dude, who knows? Maybe we pull a Barry and we leap into the future. We see what happened to all these people. I don't really see that happening. I don't really want that from this show.
I mean, I would, but I wouldn't. Like, I would like a nice hour of the finale to be down to this, like, is the courts going to get involved? Are they going to go back and forth fighting? Who's going to cut whose throat? My main question is, how are they going to do it? Because you put them all in these situations and rooms under the guise of, like, we're working towards this thing of, like, we want to cash out and then we want to buy this other company with the cash we get and be like a rival media thing. And then it's like, well, what if we tank the deal and
another one of the big picture things where I was like, just zoom out for a second. They're having this whole, like, big infighting with their father in the first two episodes.
Right.
Over, like, oh yeah, well, we're going to try it, or, like, we want the deal to go through or whatever, but we're going to buy Pierce to counter you, and you're going to have ATN, and it's going to be versus, essentially, again, all of this stuff. But it's like, but you guys need daddy to sell the company so that you make daddy's money off of the company so that you can use daddy's money to buy a thing to compete with daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I was just
and
like,
you guys
let's
came
not
to
forget.
You guys came to this
where
after
all
a
of this came
whole big finale of, we can't let this happen. It has to stay in Roy's hands. What are we going to do? Just let somebody buy the company our father built? No, we're going to take this, we got to stop this from happening. And then it becomes, well, we'll let it happen, but like, we'll get money out of it. We'll buy the other thing he wanted. Then it's become like,
dude, don't forget about the 100.
oh yeah, do the 100, just straight focus on like quick, even like international news, like what's happening in West Africa, Europe, Asia.
I love what
big
he's
minds,
like.
all this.
He's like, yeah, bro, nobody gives a shit about this. I would watch that.
I would watch that a lot.
You're just like, yeah, I'm sure you believe that you would watch that.
Fuck the patriarchy.
Oh my god,
dude. I just want to yell that every time he says something cringe. It's so fucking bad. But yeah, and then again, it's literally, dude, it's literally just like fucking children. They're just fucking children.
Yeah.
And some of the saddest shit like has been the episodes where they're interacting with their mother.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, dude, I get it. Like, if you had that mom and that's who you had because your dad wasn't around, bro, you never even had a fucking chance. Like, there was no way that any of you were getting out alive, And just the, just and again, it's all predicated on this idea of like, they can do this. And it's like, you can't. None of you are a killer. And he says that to Logan or to Kendall. Logan's like, you're a good kid, but you're not a killer. And you gotta be a killer to be in this business. Mm-hmm. To the point that like Logan probably would have respected him more had he not broken down and cried about the whole key card thing and just been like, okay, now what? And come at him like a man. Like, okay, you got leverage on me, but I don't give a fuck. I'm still going to take you to task for this deal. Logan might have been like, oh, okay, And they tell multiple times like, oh, dad will only respect you if you fucking went at him like this. Like, that's the way you're going to get in. And it's like, again, I rooted for him the entire series because I was like, your fucking children are terrible. There's a whole thing where they're like, well, what are we going to do? Make your own fucking money. Make your own fucking nut, Like, what do you think you're going to do? Mm-hmm. I've been wiping your asses and taking care of you for years. And through none of that did you learn anything about, like, why I'm able to do what I do. I'm a fucking killer, And that's what I love. It's like, oh, dad, he toppled a whole presidency with a phone call. He toppled a whole regime with this. He could just do that. And I'm like, yeah, Roman, your dad could. But you trying to step into those big shoes by being a little boy and like firing a studio exec and then firing Jerry, not realizing that like, one, that's been your reason for like female centric stuff for years. For the last month or 6 months, it's been like cruises, women bad, women good, show off women. So you firing one, and then I don't care if you're the dumbest dude in the world or the most savvy business guy. Why the fuck would you fire anybody who has a record of sexual misconduct with you? Like, that doesn't go away. You know what I mean? And if you think that she just didn't care,
operating on no sleep, pure grief and impulse, and he does not know how to deal with it. Mm-mm. And none of them should be doing any of what they're doing right now. They should have made Jerry interim CEO, and they should have all taken a nice long vacation.
Yeah.
To any number of places where they could have spent any of their millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars just doing nothing, dude.
Yeah.
Doing literally nothing. Staying out of elections, not not ruining the state of democracy.
Right.
I don't know.
And that ultimately, I think one of my favorite lines Tom said is when when Kendall goes to meet Tom, he's like, Tom, I really like you. Like, I think there could be a place with you here. And he's like, you know what? I don't think so, because every time I've watched you try to make a play against your father,
dude,
you wind up getting fucked.
One of the absolute, he's like, I've never seen Logan get fucked once.
He's
not
like,
even once.
You know what they're doing up there? They're picking the next president. I was like, damn, dude, like, that is some cold, like, truth shit. that like
dude, again,
Kendall only wishes he could be a part of.
and I don't think we've ever quite said it, but again, the person who I think knows all of it gets the full scope, but is always going to be just outside of it, is Tom.
Oh yeah, no.
Tom has absorbed everything. He gets the big perspective, and his form of cynicism is like you're saying, where it's like every once in a while you're like, oh, I think Tom might actually be the most good-hearted, because just the way he reacts to certain elements, but it is with such detachment of like, oh, this is really fucked up. Like, isn't this so fucked up, Greg? Like, I'm going to make a joke about how fucked up it is, but like, I am aware of how fucked up it is, kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think that's always given you the little bit of, I'm always kind of like, oh, Tom, maybe, but I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think none of them I don't think any of them deserve one, and I don't think there is any form of happy ending for any of these characters at the end of the series. I think it's going to be very cynical. It's been the tone of everything.
Let's just do the fucking Seinfeld. They all wind up in jail.
I mean, that would be. But again, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But we will find out.
Yeah.
You and I will get back on mic and talk about the last two
Definitely.
as soon as possible. Thank you for joining us. We've been the Disgusting Brothers. I've been Noah.
And I've been Gavin.
And we appreciate you listening to our Succession hoopla. I don't know.
Oh, fuck off.